It's my pleasure to welcome as our next speaker at the International Summit, Paloma Escudero, Director of Communications for UNICEF. Paloma started her career as a brand manager in Spain until work in another field then became her life's direction, as she will explain to you. And Paloma will tell us more about how UNICEF has really embraced measurement under her direction to drive real change for children. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Mary. So really, now you have to change mindset. But you will realize that a lot of the things that we have learned about McDonald's and beef has a lot to do with how we are aiming and learning how to use measurement to really help to drive real change for children. And that's what we are trying to do with UNICEF at the moment. I don't know how much you know about UNICEF. UNICEF is the United Nations Children's Fund, and our mandate that has been agreed by all member states of the United Nations, 190 governments, is to make sure that the Convention of the Rights of the Children, it's a reality. So our mandate is very broad, but also very simple, is to guarantee that every right is for every child everywhere. And for that, something we have to prove in our organization is that we have more than 200 KPIs for our work on immunization, in nutrition, in the fight against violence, in our work on emergency, in water and sanitation. But 2 years ago, when I arrived to New York to head the global team for communications, our strategic plan had 0 KPIs on communication and public advocacy. So the challenge we have ahead of us is how to prove that in the 21st century, unless you incorporate in everything you do in your communications that we communicate to advocate, we are failing to do what we are supposed to do. That is, every single person in UNICEF should be working together to drive change for children. So perhaps David Rockland, who has been working so closely with us in the journey, said, well, explain a little bit to the audience there why a person who used to be marketing manager in P&G ended up in UNICEF, and how much I think has been fundamental in my professional career to have the privilege to really start in what was for me such a school for marketing. I was very lucky to spend 5 years in Procter & Gamble, Spain, where I think I learned 2 key things. One was all the strategic thinking. I think I still think in one-page memos, and I still write in one-page memo. And the global communication strategy for UNICEF is written in 8 one-page memos. But also the power of data. Because all of you, if you have clients if your clients is some of the brands of P&G, will know that any recommendation in P&G is fundamentally done through consumer insights, outcomes, data, and this is something perhaps that I really brought with me in my experience with UNICEF. After 5 years, I worked with Oxfam as policy and advocacy director for 12 years. And again, to run campaigns like the Make Poverty History campaign or Make Trade Fair or Ban Landmines, it is not so different from selling soap. And when I say that, everyone panics, especially in the NGO world. But the reality at the end, both are doing the same. Identifying unmet needs, identifying best solution to deliver on those needs, and then to package them in a way that you sell it to your audiences and to the people who really can influence and drive real change. So in a way, I think that my experience in marketing in P&G and advocacy in Oxfam is what led me to UNICEF, first as 5 years as director for the Spanish National Committee in the middle of the big economic crisis, and now in New York. So when I arrived in New York, my executive director, Mr. Anthony Lake, said, oh, Paloma, you have a unique lifetime opportunity to really turn around a whole communication operation in UNICEF at global level and really making sure that it is fully integrated in our program, in our advocacy, in everything we do. And it is not just to write press releases and to inform the public about our activities in 190 countries. And the only thing he told me is that I want you to embark in the first ever global communication and public advocacy strategy, and you only have one mandate, to be fully respective with the first paragraph of the strategic plan that has been approved by the board. And this mandate is just to be true to what is our fundamental mission, that is to promote the rights of every child everywhere in everything the organization does, in programs, in advocacy, and in operations. The equity strategy, emphasizing the most disadvantaged and excluded children and families, translates this commitment to children's rights into action. So it seems easy, but it is quite a daunting mandate to be fulfilling with a communication strategy. And really, I think that the most important challenge we were having was to convince an organization that it has to embark in a very deep change management in the approach to communication from a leadership position. Because we have no, at that moment, 2 years ago, we had no reputation crisis, we had no major communication programs. For 70 years, the organization has been running operations in communication in a certain way with no major problems. Why the organization had to embark in something so different? And I think that was, for us, we really have to start saying to the organization, we are doing great. We are the leading organization on children, but others are coming closely behind and are doing great as well. So unless we get our act together and we get ahead of ourselves, could be that next year these lovely leaderships just turn around and other organizations will come and will become leaders. Another important thing is, yes, in most of the media coverage, and I have put here some recent ones on the Ebola crisis or in the Nepal media coverage, yes, our voice, we are always the most referred organization for children. But it is not enough to be just in the media, speaking nicely, or sometimes, and most of the time, from UNICEF. We have to make sure that what is communicated in the media is driving the right change. And we don't only measure our voice and our share, but we measure how this voice is driving the change we want to get, either for the kids affected by the Ebola crisis or either for the kids who have been affected by the earthquake in Nepal. And another thing very important for us, this is the goal of the organizations. We are the leading organization in social media. We are in 190 countries. We have a very strong presence. We are the leading organization in Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are, at the moment, we have more than 2 million people following. It seems that we are one of the most engaged organizations. But as Meredith said, social media for what? Social media to drive the change, especially to drive the change in attitudes and beliefs, to really make sure that every single child in the world deserves and enjoys a fair start in life, a fair opportunity in life. So we managed to embark the whole organization in this huge process of creating a new communication strategy, and we agreed, all of us, when I say all of us, we are talking about 190 country teams, about to have a single goal of all of us in the organization. What we wanted to do through our communication strategy was to put the rights and well-being of the most disadvantaged children at the heart of the social, political, and economic agenda, as the gender people did with women's rights, as the gay rights were put in the agenda a few decades ago. Children's rights are not at the center on our agenda at the moment. Very important thing, our communication should help to shift public policy on issues that matter. We wanted also to fuel social engagement, to really join social movements that are really driving changes for children, and no doubt also to be supporting our fundraising colleagues and to be increasing private and public resources for children. Another thing for us very important was we are a 70-year-old organization, and we cannot reinvent the wheel pretending we are the Greenpeace of the children's rights, because we are not. So we decided really to be building on what are the strengths of the organizations and really making sure that everyone knew that we were building on our real DNA. So what are our strengths? We have a global presence in more than 190 countries. We are in every single country before, during, and after. And there is not another organization that under the same name is present in 190 countries. It's only the Red Cross, but in some countries it's the Red Crescents and the Red Cross in others. Another thing, so far, thanks God, we do a lot of work for that, but we have a respected reputation, we have credibility, we achieve results. We are an evidence-based organization. We work on data, but also we are be our witness. We are there. We can talk about North Korea, we can talk about Syria, we can talk about Sierra Leone, because we have been there for many years, and that's where our credibility is based. Another important thing, we are a convener. We are an organization who can be talking to governments, to parliaments, but also is working with muddy boots, hands on hands with grassroots organizations. And of course, we are very, very fortunate because we have, at the moment, more than 25 million people supporting us around the world, as donors, as supporters, as volunteers. So this had to be the basis of our strategy. But very importantly, this was the critical slide, and I'm very sorry perhaps if you cannot read it properly, because what we had to convince the organization is the left is our current model that is working, but we thought that to be more effective and to really be true to our mandate, we had to move to a much more 21st century model on the right. And the communication strategy is the bridge in the middle. The communication strategy needed to help us to move from working to change policies to also working to change behaviors, social attitudes, and beliefs. From primarily targeting governments, corporates, and influencers to also powerfully communicating with the broad general public. From primarily informing to inspiring by telling compelling stories. From telling to also listening, conversing, crowdsourcing. From disseminating information to communicating to advocate, to drive change, to move people to act. From focusing mainly on print media to fully developing print, digital, mobile broadcasting. From knowledge brokering to knowledge leadership. From press releases to integrated communication strategies. From everything on earth to selective strategic priorities. And from partnerships to fueling social engagement. And if you think this is tough for a corporate, you cannot imagine how tough this is for the UN. So really, the idea was to convince people why it was worth it, what did it matter. And for us, it is if we really increase the drive and we increase the impact of our programs have on children. And for that, we needed to measure. How we were going to measure the progress on the right side. And we have to reinvent the wheel. That really we have to invent the wheel because we talked to other NGOs, other UN agencies, and nobody had a KPI system to be able to measure that. So that's when we went to our dear friends in Ketchum that I have worked many years ago in Procter with them, David Rockland, and said, do you want to embark with us to design a model that can work, and let's copy the best corporates. So in order to do that as well, we had a very good board of corporates supporting us in the process, and they told us, before going out, do your homework inside and really work your initial months on internal management, ensuring that the whole organization is embarked with you in the process. So the first challenge we had was how to integrate communication and public advocacy in the holy grail of UNICEF, that it is all our program and policy planning. How we were going to be establishing the right results measurement system. How we were going to be redefining our internal communication and our knowledge sharing. How we had to build a team that was up to speed with the challenge of the project. How we were going to embrace, but also to manage risk. How we were going to break silos. And very important, how we were going to fuel and incentivize innovation in a an organization that so far have not embraced innovation in communications. And at the end, what we did is, what is the key to do all that? Keep it simple. Keep it extremely, extremely simple in a way that you ask any person in Nepal, in Peru, in the UK, or in New York, and they understand what the communication strategy is about. And then we fix 3 clear targets, 3 clear objectives, and 2 clear target audiences. The objectives are, guess what, the Beef Association, very linked to that, voice, reach, and engagement. We wanted to be the leading voice for and with children, to maintaining that or even to increase that leadership. We want to reach 1 billion people around the world in every initiative we do. And we want to reach 1 billion to engage 50 million in a regular basis in support of children. So the voice, reach, and engagement, also we're going to have very specific targets that we didn't have in the past. We are going to be focusing on the millennials, because really they are the people who are in their hands is the future decision of the world, but also we were going to be focusing on the middle class. That was a growing class in all the countries except in North America. But if we are talking about Africa, we are talking about Asia, we are talking about other places, between millennials and middle class, we are targeting 70% of the total population. And for each of the 3 objectives, 3 clear strategies, the 3x3 we call it. To be a leading voice, we are going to do it through changing and reshaping our global compelling storytelling, being always based, our messaging based on evidence, on data, on research, but also on our testimonies because we are present, and also to make sure that when we talk about an issue, we do it in a rapid way, we are proactive, we have authority on that, and also we are authentic in our communication. To reach the 1 billion people, we are going to approach media in a total new way. We are going to partner. We don't want to do that on our own. We want to reach people with our messaging, our messaging about child marriage, our message about the importance of immunization, or our message about Ebola through the right partners, and also through innovation. Innovative ways, and for instance, in this case, in the reach, mobile phones are getting really the big part and the big chunk of our innovation to reach people. And to engage 50 million people, the key thing in the whole has been our global approach. What we are very clear, we are a very, very, very decentralized organization. And every country office and every national committee have really a lot of autonomy. So we are promoting global concepts, but with a lot of flexibility in the way it is applied in every country. When we talk about a campaign about violence, that is all about making visible the invisible violence, every country can choose if violence in their country is domestic violence, is gender violence, sexual violence, cyberbullying, up to them. But the important thing is to cry out there that it is intolerable that people and young kids are really suffering against violence. Very important is to choose the right partners to drive the change in every country. And this could be corporates, it could be NGOs, and sometimes it could be even governments. And very important, we shifted completely our goodwill ambassador and key influencers strategy to advocate. Starting with David Beckham, I don't know if there are so many British here, where we really asked him to be much more vocal, launching his 7th fund, and really being out there, speaking out about children issues. Before going to our management to approve, we tested it. We tested and did a pilot proving that what we were proposing was really already happening. It was possible to do it, and we chose 2 countries per region, very different. From Morocco to Egypt, Afghanistan, Cambodia, Burundi, Mozambique, Liberia, Chad. But when we went to our board to approve our strategy, we had already 15, 16 countries who could prove, and it can work. And these countries have embarked for 3 months and are committed to move forward on this. And then, in order to prove and to say to our seniors and to our board, and embark on this, we are going to prove you in a year this is working, we really put a lot of effort and not a lot of money because we have no money, but a lot of thinking on what should be the right way to approach KPIs in communication measurement systems in something that it didn't exist before at all. So we were asking all our country offices or our team to embark in something that was beyond the remit. It was not something that it was in the strategic plan, but we had to convince them to move in this direction. So when we started to put in place the new measurement system, what we have learned? We have to be very, very serious about M&E. It cannot be an afterthought. It has to be really evidence-based in our communication. And something very important for us as well is that it cannot just be something that we do ad hoc. It has really has to change the way we do business, the way we communicate. And we developed a very comprehensive M&E framework that explains this approach, and we are training all our teams to do so. Another thing is it has to be very, very, very simple. At the moment, we only have 16 KPIs that every country has to do. 4 KPIs for voice, 4 KPIs for reach, 4 KPIs for engagement, and 4 KPIs for brand. It's extremely simple. At the moment, it is only really a quantitative KPIs. Hopefully, in a year's time, in 2 years' time, perhaps we can move into something more spectacular. But at the moment, it's really simple and easy for everyone. Another challenge that we have learned is that we need to have the right people and to develop the relevant resources and invest in capacity building. Not all our teams, especially in communication and advocacy, are ready to be embarking in such a system. This is why we have created a total new team, and Arturo Romboli, who's going to be the vice chair of the new nonprofit AMEC group, has been leading this group. We have been training, we are doing webinars every single week with all our country offices, and also we have developed a very comprehensive handbook to explain our approach. Another thing is we cannot do it alone. We have to do it with the right partners. We are very, 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 very lucky because we are working with Gorkana, we are working with Ubiquity, we are working also with Ketchum, and now hopefully we are going to benefit a lot from the work with the non-profit group in AMEC. Another thing is don't reinvent the wheel and copy the best. I think that when we really realized that no one in the humanitarian sector and the non-profit were working on this, we said, we go to the corporates and we learn from them and we copy from them. And this one has been very important. We have been very lucky to establish a measurement advisory board that we have been copied from the UK government. And yesterday we met for the second time. A lot of members of AMEC are in our measurement advisory board, and this is going to be very important for us. Only yesterday in the discussion 3 hours, we already have 12 key next steps for us to be going back to our teams, to be keeping improving the way we are working. And another thing that has been our mantra again and again to all the teams, fail fast, fail cheap, try again, improve and scale up. It doesn't matter if we fail. But I mean, if we fail, please don't, that cannot be that you fail with a vaccination. But with the things we do, we can fail. But fail very fast, please. Don't just waste your time on that. And another thing is, please look for new ways of doing things. No one has done before what we have done now in UNICEF, so we have to try different approaches and scale up immediately. And that's very important for us. We have now a very fast system. Every month we share the best experiences, and it's just fantastic. Something that works in Afghanistan can be replicated in the UK or can be replicated in Mexico. And we are really using, thanks to the webinars, to the jammers and so on, we have created more than 100 people constantly implementing. Another thing is share our information in a timely manner and do it in the right way. So at the moment we have 2 daily email alerts, or thanks to Gorkana. We have weekly sharing of data, monthly newsletter sharing data, quarterly, and also very, very important, we are doing very tailored and timely reports to our senior management. On Ebola, thanks to Gorkana, we were reporting to our senior management on a day basis. I still remember in the middle of August when we had all these headlines with WHO, I still remember saying to our seniors, the battle of Ebola will be won at community level. In UNICEF, it's at community level. Be patient, because there is the battle and we will win it. And we are going to be telling the story at community level, even if the newspapers don't want to tell it. And that's one of the cases I think we have to bring here, because we were right. The Ebola battle was won at community level, changing attitudes and beliefs. And we were leaders in social media through our series of Ebola heroes, telling stories of the normal people. And that was not sexy for the media. The media wanted to get other the headlines about the vaccinations and other things, and that was great for the media. But we said to our people, thanks to our daily data, this is right, we are getting the coverage, people are engaging, we are getting the support of our donors, don't change direction, and the headlines will come. The only thing, the headlines came a bit late, came in October with our stories. But I think thanks to the data we were collecting on our coverage on Ebola, we managed to get that information. And another thing is, measurement is an art. And we will keep learning and we will keep adapting. We will never go to a system that goes and it fits 190 countries. We will allow people to create their own allowed systems. And just to change, we are now doing case studies. We are proving that when you use the right data, you can drive the change you can drive. I'm going to leave in the website a very short 4-minute video about how, for instance, in Montenegro, we use 2 key data about attitudes of the population to children with disabilities. And we make the most of this data to change attitudes and beliefs. That data was just outrageous. It said that 64% of the parents in Montenegro in 2010 find it unacceptable that a child with disability goes to the same class with their child. Another outrageous data said that 77% of the citizens who find it unacceptable that a child with disability is the best friend of their child. We exposed that data in public a few years ago, 5 years ago. We embarked from the Prime Minister to the Goodwill Ambassadors to the Teacher Association. We put forward as a spokespeople disabled kids, and as you say, data works. Because nowadays we can see that in 2015 in Montenegro, only 20% of the parents consider that a kid in a wheelchair or a kid visually impaired cannot be in the same class learning as their kid, and there's a whole legislation and investment for inclusive education in Montenegro. This is what the power of data is, and hopefully it's all about ability, and you will join us to make this change that we have done for the kids of Montenegro in many other countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello, man. inspiring amount of change. Who's got the first question, please?
Annele Airikkala, Medius International. I was wondering whether you did fail fast and cheap. How did you do that? I mean, failures are sometimes good to hear.
Oh, lots of cases of failure. I think that perhaps one of the examples on failure that I'm thinking about one country that I can tell you. I think that we fail trying to impose digital, because digital seems like the panacea, and everything now is digital and digital first and all that. And I have two key lessons from Afghanistan and from Nigeria. Okay, telling me, listen, no, for us, digital is not the key one, because digital is a very small part of the population and is not really getting to the poorest areas where the bulk of our work is. So what they told me is that digital would come afterwards, but if what you want to do is to really address millennials and to go to the populations who can drive change, you have always to balance online with offline. And they were right. In the case of Afghanistan, that is one of these fascinating countries, they have run an amazing campaign on integration of girls in education. And what they have done is radio and TV. Radio and TV, soap operas always work very well, changing role models, and digital has been a very tiny part. But our initial toolkits was all based on engagement through digital. And Nigeria was another big lesson for us as well. Because sometimes when you say we communicate to advocate, you can enter into tricky political issues, okay? And trying to, in that case, was more on let's support the public campaigning, and instead, of course, we are going to support, of course, Bring Back Our Girls. What a campaign, what an amazing, we have our fantastic Facebook in Nigeria, let's jump on it. We didn't have done our homework right. And Bring Back Our Girls, at the beginning, was really great, and it's still great. But one of the political parties in the latest elections used it as their political slogan to criticize the government. So to have UNICEF youth engaged in a campaign who was benefiting one of the political parties was not smart at all. So we realized that, that's why I said fail fast, because thanks God we realized that before embarking in the first anniversary of Bring Back Our Girls, and then we created a campaign called Bring Back Our Childhood. And we based it in the refugee kids from Nigeria that were in southern Chad. These people, these kids were just drawing what they miss about their childhood in Nigeria. And we used it to launch a snapshot in Africa. And then people, snapshot users, were paying and doing drawings based on the drawings of the kids, talking about the issue, creating a lot of TV buzz in Africa, but going beyond what was the anniversary of Bring Back Our Girls. So you can always, you have to be very well connected to your networks to be able to identify immediately when you have an issue of that kind, because especially in the case of UNICEF, the reputation risk could be big.
Thank you. What we'll do now is encourage you to make a beeline for Paloma at the networking break. So we'll thank you in a couple of ways. You brought your Global Advisory Board to us here in Stockholm. That was great, thank you. And we thank you also for making the effort to keep this in your diary. Thank you.
Thank you.